Hello everyone, I'm Candice and you can find me at eclecticcoach.com if you're interested in personal coaching. I do two different types of coaching. I do intuitive transformational coaching. This is where I help you tune into your own spiritual guidance system, how to accurately read the intuitive impressions that you're getting, and then to follow through on that guidance, because that's how you really strengthen and build this connection with spirit and know that you can trust yourself, and you reach your goals much faster because you're always being guided and supported and helped, and this just makes it easier for you to hear and to have some accountability around that. And I also do course completion coaching. So if you have signed up for any sort of course online, a marketing course, a business course, an art class, maybe you wanted to learn a particular skill, and maybe you want to do it for personal reasons or professional reasons, but the point is that you want to actually complete the course. That's what I'm here to help you do. Actually go through the modules, assimilate the information, and then apply it and be held accountable to following through and using it to that important thing that is the reason that you signed up for the course in the first place. So check out my website and you can make a payment or schedule an appointment right there, and at the bottom of this video I'll have all the links to where you can find me. And in this video I want to talk about 5 relationship resources. So I think that relationships are so fascinating, so interesting. One of the things I wanted to do, and I still might, we're going to wait till education is completely democratized. I don't need any student loan debts, any more of them. But I got my degree from a very expensive school, and now I'm just like, you're joking. Like, it's just, it needs to be more affordable. And when it is, I probably will go and get my master's or PhD in marriage and family. I love studying relationship dynamics. I love learning about how we interact, why we behave the way that we do, and most importantly though, what we can do about it to make it better, make it a little bit easier. Relationships are so mysterious and they're so difficult and they're so wonderful and worth it when we put the work in on ourselves and we put effort towards building into our relationships. That's where we experience real joy and happiness and long-term satisfaction, is through having really strong relationships. Now, we're not always going to be in points of our life where everything is super strong and we feel connected and there's healthy communication. That's kind of the interesting thing, especially about romantic relationships, is it's like the universe or something plays like a little trick, then makes you fall in love, and like basically your brain goes on drugs and then you make lifetime decisions. So it's kind of difficult, and there's no other area that's going to bring up all of your shit like your romantic relationships and even your work relationships. One of the people that I'm going to mention in this list also, or both of them, 2 of them, they do a lot of high level coaching and like different things for corporations, and these relationship dynamics are paramount to how we communicate, how we get things done, how we accomplish things, not just in our intimate relationships but also at work. So I just wanted to offer these 5 relationship resources. They've helped me when I've been struggling in relationship, and they've given me perspective, and they've also given me practical tools that I can apply to my relationship and have it be a little bit better. I am an INFJ, so admittedly I want a perfect relationship. I want a perfect everything, but life is messy, and that's one of the things that from studying these different teachers I'm learning, is that relationships are fucking hard work, and it doesn't matter who you are or how much you study, it's going to trigger all of your bullshit. And so hopefully you will find these 5 things, I'm 5 minutes in, I'm sorry, helpful and useful to you. So the first one is John Gray. I love his stuff. I love it because it gives you a applicable model for like how men and women hear things differently. Now, I understand that there are same-sex couples and all different other sorts of things like now, and that's great. I just don't know about that, and I can't speak to that. So if you can, or if you have any resources regarding that, then. But his work seems to focus on heterosexual relationships between men and women, and how we're raised through our cultures differently. But also, one of the things that I really like about him is his emphasis on how to help balance out each other's hormones. So it works with that like baseline level of biology that is super helpful. And he talks a lot about how women, you know, we are in a different society now where we can go out there and we're like, I don't need a man and I'm going to get this done, and we get into our masculine side, and but also being happy and feeling fulfilled and full and like is about getting into your feminine space, and how you can work with your partner to nurture your feminine side and to make that available. As a very feminine woman myself, I can kind of toggle between my masculine and feminine side, but when I'm too far in that driving masculine, get it done, get to the point nature, like I just don't feel like as full and as happy and as magical and as I would like to be. And also at some point, I don't know when, but I would like to have a baby and I would like to have a family. And so I just like the idea of being able to help one another balance our hormones so that we can feel like we're in our most natural state. And that's going to resonate differently for different people, but this is just my relationship resources list. So that's one of the things I like about it. I also like that he gives really clear models of communication. So, because we confuse each other, like women just want to feel heard, and we just want to tell the person, our partner, about our problem, and he just wants to fix it. It's really interesting to watch these relationship dynamics play out in older couples too, with more of that traditional gender role upbringing, and how that plays out, and how we go about asking for our needs to be met, and we go about asking for support or love. He gives a really clear model of communication so that you're not confused when things are happening. You're not thinking, oh, this person just can't listen to me. It's just, he gives you a way of setting it up so that they can listen. And I really like the framework and the models in terms of how he breaks down everyday communication between men and women. So check that out. He wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but then he also wrote Beyond Mars and Venus. I have not read that, but it's about in modern society how we want to be everything. We both have a masculine and feminine side, and how to work with that in today's modern relationships. And then the next one I love is Esther Perel. She has a podcast called Where Should We Begin? I've watched or listened to every single episode. I'll go for a walk, and sometimes I'll like start crying, and I'm just like walking and sobbing as I'm listening to other people's relationship stories. But one of the things that I like that she does in this, and that she had mentioned in an interview that she had done, is that what she's doing is she's taking the couple's dynamic out of isolation, out of like these dark corners where nobody knows, and nobody, because it used to be that, I think the example she uses is that in villages, everybody knew about every fight and every fuck. Like everybody knew about every single thing that was going on. But now we are more autonomous and we live in the West, many of us. And so we have these relationships that are apart from the community, and we're not really sure what's going on. And so what she's doing is she's democratizing couples counseling because it's expensive. Like, you really have to look at your self-care and personal development as an investment, and sometimes we just feel like, oh, is that something else that we can pay for, and she doesn't work with these couples on an ongoing basis. They come in and they do a couples therapy session together, and you hear parts of your story or your behavior or things that you've seen in other people's behaviors laid out so clearly. And listening to her, it's just, she's a master. She's a master at saying, okay, so what I'm hearing, and then paraphrasing it. And then that person is like, yes, that is exactly it. Or if she's a little off, they'll correct her, but everybody just walks away clearer about their behavior, how they're showing up, what they're doing to contribute to the great things in the relationship and the not so great things. And she helps people look at how some of their past experiences are showing up in the relationship now. And I think that that's a really important thing to recognize, is that it's not about going through your childhood and looking at every bad memory and working with a therapist to just drudge up all this shit. But you've got shit that's playing out and unhealed trauma in your relationship. I mean, the universe does you a favor by making you like fall in love and like then it's going to trigger all of your underdeveloped stuff, your unhealed stuff. And so looking at the challenges in communication and connectivity in your relationships and kind of looking, oh, where did that originate from? Oh, maybe it was my relationship with, whoever in your family. And you're able to see where the pattern began, but you can make a conscious choice. And is this how you want to continue to communicate? I also like that she gives some like phrases and like what to say. I think that is a big thing in relationship, is you're just not always really sure what you should say. Or is this going to end the fight? Is this going to prolong it? So I think that she also wrote Mating in Captivity. So she talks about how to keep like erotic desire and passion and connectivity alive in a long-term relationship. And she talks about this dance between intimacy and this need for autonomy, and it gives you some ideas on how to deal with a modern relationship, because it isn't as defined as it was in the 50s and whatever. Like, it's just a different deal now, and we want different things from our relationships now. And so she gives a really great modern take on that. And then one of the things I will say is that after my last really long-term relationship ended, and I was just processing all of that, we didn't end it because of infidelity, but there was definitely infidelity present from the very beginning. And I say that kind of laughing now because it was just the worst thing ever. And now it kind of was very liberating, very healing. I grew a lot from that whole experience. But I was listening to her talk and this other person talk on different TED Talks. I was really into TED at that time, and they just talk about she has a TED Talk called Why We Love and Why We Cheat. And also listening to Esther Perel, it totally helped me reframe my expectations and do a lot of healing around the infidelity. I think that one of the questions that comes up is that we think, you know, was I not enough? And just all these different painful things come up. But what you realize is A, you're not alone in any of that, and it helps you adjust your expectations. And it gives you a deeper insight in just to human behavior. It's not always that there's something just terrible about you, or that this person could ever fulfill all of your needs and desires. In a relationship, we put too much, she talks a lot about that too, how we put too much emphasis on having just this one person like be our everything. And we need community, we need friends, we need spiritual elders, we need like these different models of having relationship, not just our partner. Because we live in a very autonomous society now, so we just look to this one person to be our mate, to be our business partner, our best friend, our co-parent, our, you know, everything. And that's a lot of pressure to put on one person. And it's just bugging me that I can't remember this lady's name, but I'll make another video about other relationship resources that I like. But she wrote Why We Love and Why We Cheat, and she is talking about how our brain, it's not uncommon for our brains to be totally in love with this one person, and then our mind will drift to this other memory and then come back. And I don't know, maybe it's the Scorpio in me, but like I can get a little possessive, or, you know, and people are autonomous people. We choose to be in relationship with them. We choose to build something with them. We choose to write a story with them. That's great. But like, it is okay. And I'm learning this too as I'm addressing some of my like codependency issues, is it's okay to like, another person can have their own spiritual beliefs, their own, like, there doesn't need to be all this enmeshment, like, totally different. You can be different, but compatible. I don't know where I was going with that other than just allowing the idea of that other person to have space beyond me, beyond us, beyond the relationship, and just more freedom, and not feel like that threatens me in any sort of way, was like profound. And it came from learning about just the basic biology that we're all operating on. And then the next one is Tony and Sage Robbins. So I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. Huge. Love Tony Robbins. But like I look at a lot of people, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love studying people's relationships. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, it's going to be work. It's going to be love and fun and great things, but there's also going to be effort and compromise and just shit. It just sounds hard. They make it actually seem like it's worth it. Like, they seem like they have fun, they have work-life integration, friendship, passion, like it's legit, like they really love each other. Like, I believe it. And not only that, but it looks like they're running around and having a bunch of fun and doing a bunch of cool things. Like, a lot of couples, it's just like, oh, is it just gonna be work? Or is that all we're doing here? Like, we're just gonna, it's gonna be work. And it's work and then mediocrity. Work and then sort of like, boring. Like, that sucks. But when you look at their relationship, it looks like they have fun things that they do. And what's kind of cute about it is you can, because I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and for a long time, ever since my early 20s. And like, you can tell that he's allowed her, it's not just him, you know, this big motivational guy, this guru. He says it's not your guru, but you know, this guy who knows all this about personal development. You can tell that she's like had a positive influence on him too. She's kind of helped him open up, or rest more, or be more in balance. And I don't know why, but I just think that that's super cute. And so look into their stuff. They've got a lot of good information about how to change your state and how to create new rituals in your relationship so that it's passionate and it's fun and it's fulfilling. Um, he's just the master of helping you shift your perception. And so that can be applied to your relationships. And that's why I like him. And then the next one, and this is really long, is John Gottman. So he runs the Gottman Institute, and a long time ago, I can't remember when, but I think it was at the University of Seattle. Don't 100% remember, but they did a longitudinal study of couples, and they filmed them in like an apartment, and they watched how they interacted with one another, and then they tested their cortisol levels, and then they followed them to see how long their relationship lasted. Somewhere in the 90 percentile, like I can't remember if it's like 98 or if it's 90. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's in the 90 percentile. They can estimate whether or not a couple will stay together based on the ratio of what they call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of the relationship and positive, loving, kind gestures. And I think it's a 5-to-1 ratio. For a long time I thought it was a 6-to-1, but it's just a 5. But maybe go for 6 for good measure. But so the 4 horsemen, so these are bad. If they show up in your relationship, and we all do them. I just want to point that out. We all do these things, and so it needs to be counterbalanced. And I like that there's like a number. For every time one of these 4 things shows up, you got to do something loving that builds into the relationship, that uplifts your partner, that makes you feel more connected, that repairs the relationship and keeps it strong and vital. And the first one is criticism. So criticism is when we don't give a legitimate complaint. Hey, I'm mad that you didn't do the laundry. Instead it's, hey, you are the most lazy, self-centered person on the planet, something like that. We make it a character assassination rather than about a specific legitimate complaint that we're making. And then the next thing is contempt. So this is the worst one out of all of them. It's anything that shows disgust with your partner. That's like you're shunning them, or when you think that you're better than them, you're smarter than them, therefore you're better than them, you're better looking than them, you're more motivated than them, you're more successful, like whatever you're comparing yourself to your partner and making yourself above them is contempt. And you really got to get on the repair if you've done that. No, we get in moods. We watch something and it affects us, or we have a conversation with somebody and we feel triggered, and then now we're interacting with our partner and they're reminding us a lot of one of our parents, or some shit's happening, and we behave in one of these 4 ways, and that happens. So that's that one. So don't, if you recognize any of this, don't beat up on yourself. Just do something about it, And then another one is when you roll your eyes at your partner. That's a sign of contempt. Anything that shows aggression, contempt, or violence, or getting in their space, or anger, that's directed at them. So those are all examples of contempt. The next is stonewalling. So you see this in when one couple one of the people in the couples criticizes a lot, and then the other one is just done. You don't exist. You're not even here. Whatever you're doing, I don't give a shit. I'm doing this, and this is where I'm at, and so you can just not be in my field of awareness. And so sometimes like one of the couples will just talk to the other one and they're not listening, they're not there, but they're almost doing it as a way to. Sometimes it's for self-protection, you know, and other times, and I'll address that in a second, but other times it's just you're giving someone the silent treatment and you're shutting them out. And then the other one is defensiveness. So your partner brings up a problem with you that they don't like, and you immediately go to not find any truth in what they're saying, but just they're wrong. And then you bring up the times that they didn't do whatever that you think that they should have done. And so what I love is that these patterns of behavior are measurable and somewhat predictable. And if you can adhere to this ratio, whereas if you catch yourself doing any of those four things, you got a 5-to-1 ratio. For every one of those four, every time you got annoyed and rolled your eyes at your partner and you're just like, whatever, or you did whatever, or you got feisty and like sort of like aggressive, women do that too, like we all do these things, then five, hey, you know, I really liked how you did that, or I really appreciate you being mindful of time recently and picking me up on time, or I don't know, whatever you say, something that shows a genuine effort to rebuild, to connect, to express love for every 5. Now, it needs to be in balance too, because I've been in some challenging relationships, and like sometimes it's just one person who's just trying to repair and build and put all the work or effort. And if that's you, you might be being very codependent. So check out an Al-Anon meeting or something like that, because this also needs to be in a balance too. You want to be with a partner that reciprocates this intention to have a strong, happy, fulfilling, thriving relationship that works for both of you. So it's not just one person who's just constantly trying to, and if you see that, then, you know, Al-Anon. And then Brene Brown, so this is getting rather long, but Brene Brown is just amazing. She just, I just love her. I loved her ever since I heard her first TED Talk, and she talks about vulnerability, and she has this really great program on Netflix. I highly recommend it. But one of the things that really stands out to me about her is just this, she talks about not using your partners and not having them use your vulnerabilities against you. You don't use one another's vulnerabilities against one another. Like, you're supposed to be trying to play on the same team. And she just talks about the need for connection and love and belonging. And then the other thing that she talks about that I always really loved is that, you know, sometimes we think that we need to achieve this huge, great, big thing and be all extraordinary. But if we ever died or something like that, what people end up missing is, she gives the example of the way they set the table, or the way they slammed the screen door when they left, or it's those little tiny funny things like my mom's laugh, or, you know, just funny things that people do that just make you love them for them. And we're all like striving sometimes to prove ourselves to others, to create this big thing, but it's really the little things that are just genuine, in the moment expressions of you that the people love and miss and want to connect with, and that you love. And so just appreciating that about yourself, but also taking out time and attention to notice and appreciate that about your partner is awesome. And I love Brene Brown. So check her out as well. So, oh, and one more. I'm just going to give one more. We're already on 30 minutes. But Marianne Williamson is amazing. She has this talk. I think it's A Return to Love, which was great. It was an amazing book about her experience with the Course in Miracles, but also how it relates to other people, and how sometimes um, we we want this person, but we want them to be a certain way, and we're trying to have a relationship. And she just talks a lot about the insidiousness of our ego, which is our small separated self, and how we just like we have sort of these idols that we create out of romantic relationships. And she talks about how the Course in Miracle calls it the special relationship, being one of the ego's chief